We are all very familiar with the concept of SIP, Systematic Investment Plan, doing a small amount of money month on month into equity mutual funds to create wealth over the long period of time. But what happens when you get a big bonus? When you sell a property and you don't want to invest it in another property, or your chit fund matures, or your life insurance matures, and you get a big lump sum. What do you do with that? How do you go about investing? Where all can I invest my lump sum? What are the do's and don'ts about investing in lump sum? How does lump sum differ from SIPs? These are all the aspects we're going to look at in today's video. First, what is lump sum investing? Lump sum investing is taking charge of a large investment and making it financially work for you by investing it. That's what lump sum is. It's the exact diametric opposite of an SIP. Now, when you get money upfront and you need to invest it, then you have a variety of different options you can go to. The one that is on the extreme safety side is your bank fixed deposit. Up to 5 lakhs is anyway guaranteed by the Reserve Bank of India, so it can't get safer than that. You can do government securities, you can buy a whole lot of stuff on the safety side of things. But you can also invest it into mutual funds, you can also invest it into long-term equity related products, depending on the amount. Now, obviously, some of these are simple, easy, but low return. Some of them are a little bit more complex, little bit more market linked, therefore little bit riskier, and therefore they also tend to give a little bit higher return. Now, what must be your option of choosing these? When you get a lump sum, the benefit of investing a lump sum, especially in market related products like, say, example, equity mutual funds, is that it gets to work in the equity markets much earlier. So if you intend to stay invested for a 10-year period, the earlier you get into the market, the more wealth you can create over a period of time. So therefore, it's hugely beneficial. All the money starts working for you from day one for the 10-year period. So it's hugely an advantageous way to create wealth. Second, since the amount that you're putting is reasonably large, the return also is likely to be equally larger. It's not small amounts that you're putting, it's a large amount. The outcomes are also expected to be large when the playoff happens over a period of time. Third, if you don't need the money in the short term, there are lots of equity schemes that have generated stupendous returns on a 15 or a 20-year period, diversified equity portfolios that have done superbly well over long term. So it's almost, while you can't use the word guarantee, it's almost an easy guess to say that you will create a reasonably good corpus for yourself if you stay invested for a 15 or a 20-year period in a good, diversified, large cap, blue chip oriented companies or a mutual fund. That said, I'm going to talk a little bit about disadvantages of lump sum investing as well. While it has lots of advantages, the big disadvantage is you put your money today and for some reason, global financial crisis, so many other things happen around the world, the market takes a dip. You will find that your portfolio value has eroded significantly. And for it to recover back and come back, while it will happen over periods of time, it does leave a little bit of a bad taste in the investor. And many investors who are unable to control their emotions go and sell in fear, not wanting to lose more, and therefore lose whatever they have invested as well. Now, that emotion one needs to curb when one is investing into lump sum. Lump sums are meant for long term. Do not put your lump sum money, which is meant for a 2-year period or thereabouts, into equity markets. That's a bad way to lose money. You need to give it a long time, 5 years and beyond at the least. You should not take some extreme bets. You should not do trading. You should not do margin trading using your lump sum if that's not your forte. Take risks that you know of and you can live with. Do not take undue risk on your portfolio. These are all the drawbacks of some things that investors do when they have lump sum and they lose out in the bargain. The exact opposite works to the advantage of SIPs. Because you're putting these monies in a smaller way, markets, whether they are up or down, continues to benefit you in that sense. So it's exactly the counter of a lump sum. SIPs in more volatile markets help create greater wealth because they keep investing in ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, so that over a long period of time, the value accretion is much, much better. So in lump sum, it's important to take all these risks into account. We did an exercise of comparing investments in 2 time periods between lump sum and SIP, and we did identical funds, large cap equity mutual funds, and we did 3 years. Let's say you put in 3 lakhs of money 3 years ago. How did that fund fare? And at the end of 3 years, large cap funds all worked in a similar manner, gave a return of somewhere in the region of about 5 lakhs plus. 3 lakhs invested, 3 years later, 5 lakhs. Not bad return. But if I had chosen, instead of putting 3 lakhs then, I put 10,000 every month for 36 months. I would have put 3.6 lakhs. And guess what? At the end of this 3-year period, the value of my portfolio was almost around the same 5 lakhs. So in a short term, there doesn't seem to be much of a difference between lump sum and SIP. They seem to have kind of traveled very similar in creating a small gain to the investor. But the moment we pull that period a little longer and we said, can we look at the same phenomenon if we used an 8-year period? How do these schemes perform? The same schemes, mind you, the same large cap funds. If we had put in a lump sum 8 years ago, to if we had carried 8 years of SIP, how does that scheme work? Now, obviously, in the SIP portion, I'm only putting small amounts every month. But mind you, I'm also taking advantage every drop. So to that extent, it's also an advantage that needs to play out. So in this experiment, what we did is we did the same 10,000, 8 years, 12 months, 9.6 lakhs gets deployed. And similarly, we took a 10 lakh figure. Now the SIP figure of 9.6 lakhs at the end of 8 years on actual terms was somewhere in the region of about 20 lakhs or 21 lakhs. So the value of the tenure of SIP was somewhere in the region of about 20 or 21 lakhs. But the lump sum, that the 10 lakhs that was invested 8 years ago, is today in the region of about 35 lakhs. So if you ask me, in this example, as the period has gone up, the gain is almost 50% higher. 20 lakhs to 35 lakhs is almost 50% higher. So the learning that I had out of this is that if you get your fund right and if you give it enough time, then lump sum can be a hugely rewarding exercise as compared to just an SIP. But the best would be if you can combine the two. If you combine a lump sum investment along with an SIP, then the result is something completely different. So lump sum investment does have a role to play. Not all our monies come in small supplies. You do have monies that come in as lump sum. If those lump sums come, you should look at deploying it. Now, for some reason, let us say you are unsure about market volatility, then you can choose a route which we call systematic transfer plan. That is, in mutual funds, you park it into a liquid fund, which is very similar to a short-term bank FD kind of a product, which is low on risk and maybe return is also not very high. You park it into these funds, and then in the corresponding equity fund within the same fund house, you give a transfer. And that transfer you can give daily, weekly, monthly, depending on how you want. So if you think the market is very volatile, for you to take the guts to put all the money at one go, you can choose to use the STP route. Put money into a liquid fund or an ultra short fund and transfer money into equity over a 6-month or an 8-month period, or even a 3-month period, depending on how you see the market. Now, what this does is that it participates in the market at various points in times over the 6 months or over the 3 months, as the case may be. Let's say you do it on a weekly basis over a 3-month period, then there are 12 purchase points in the market. Those 12 purchase points give you a certain average that works to your advantage. So this is what one can do to minimize risk when one is investing lump sum into the equity mutual funds in some way or the other. But as long as you invested it in 3 to 6 months' time and you're allowing the money to kind of do its role over a period of time, I'm sure lump sum investing can be also a very, very rewarding exercise.